Good evening, fellow Plexers and fellow Synology NAS owners. This video goes out to Christian, a buddy of mine over in the UK. Christian owns a Synology DS 920 Plus NAS. He has a single 8 terabyte Iron Wolf drive as his main volume, and then he has a second of the same drive in that's not set up as part of the volume. It's not a separate volume, nor is it a hot spare. So he is having trouble understanding RAID types for his Synology NAS and how to figure out the RAID calculator by Synology. And I thought I'd do a video for everyone if they are new to running Plex on a Synology NAS. Or if you're not new. So this first knowledge base article tells you that you can change the RAID type of your storage pool, and I'll put a link to it. Basically, there's only a few rules. You can't decrease the type of RAID. As an example, you can't go from RAID 6, which is 2 drive redundancy, or Synology Hybrid RAID 2, which is 2 drive redundancy also, down to 1 drive redundancy. Everything about a Synology NAS where the hard drives are concerned or a volume is concerned, you can upgrade to something bigger and better, but you can't downgrade to smaller or less protection. So I'll just post this article. You can read it through at your own leisure. And it tells you how many drives you need for each RAID type. Well, actually, this is to upgrade. So if you're going to upgrade to SHR2, you need 4 or 5 drives. To create an SR2 volume or a RAID 6 volume, you need 4 drives. And the RAID calculator will show you that. So basically, I want to bring in my own DSM. And I didn't prep for that, so let me bring it off screen quickly. Because when it first pops up, it shows my quick connect address. So if I go to Storage Manager, you'll see that I'm using an expansion unit and I have all 10 bays filled. The first 2 bays in the Synology NAS itself each have a 1 terabyte Western Digital red drive. I've recently reconfigured this NAS with this new RAID 1 volume that all my Docker containers or Synology package applications run on. And then I filled the remaining 8 bays with my 16 terabyte Iron Wolf drives. And I've recently purchased 2 new ones to go along with the 6 I had. So I destroyed my previous RAID 1 array and created a new my previous SHR array, Synology Hybrid RAID, and created an SHR2 array. So I gave up storage space in order to gain 2 drive redundancy. So back to the upgrade part. If you go to your storage pool, and if you look at the 3 dots, if you can upgrade the RAID type, you'll see change RAID type as an option. So this is a RAID 1 array, only 2 SSDs. I did not feel it was necessary to use an SHR array or RAID type. So I used RAID 1 instead. And if I wanted to change to RAID 5, I could if I had a spot to add a 3rd drive, which I don't. So RAID 5 is the only upgrade option for this volume. If we go to my second storage pool, which is already an SHR2 array, you'll see there's no upgrade options available. So let me do one more thing. I'm opening up my DSM for my older Synology NAS, which has an SHR2 spanned array over to its own expansion unit. which also means because it's already SHR2, there will not be an upgrade option here either. So basically, if Synology shows you an upgrade option, you can explore that further through that knowledge base article. So I wanted to get that out of the way first. So now let's go to the RAID calculator so I can try to explain to Christian how it all works. So basically, it only goes up to 20 terabyte drives, even though we know there's 22 and 24 terabyte drives on the market. So if I add Christian's one 8 terabyte drive, once I do that, let me make this a little smaller. Once I add a drive, any size drive, you see the usage estimate pop up. So typically people use RAID 5 or RAID 6. With a Synology NAS, they have a hybrid type of RAID for each that gives you more flexibility. So let's change the bottom one to SHR2, which is like RAID 5. So the flexible version of RAID 5 is that you can create an SHR array with one drive. So 9.3 gigabytes is reserved for the system. That's DSM running. Then you get the remaining capacity to use for storage. So let's add Christian's other drive that's already powered up. It just needs to be added to the array. So once that happens, you'll see that he still does not have enough drives for the traditional RAID 5 array, but the flexible version of that, the Synology hybrid RAID, now he gains protection. He did not gain any more space. So green is available capacity, blue is protection. And it's a misinformation to think one drive is protection and one drive is data. Both drives have protection information written to them. So either one can fail to be rewritten on a replacement drive. So Christian wants to buy 2 more 8 terabyte drives. So when he adds the first one to his array to make a total of 3, this is where we have additional space, but the protection amount of space stays the same. That did not increase because the total amount of protection equals 1 full drive size. And this is when you can first add a RAID 5 array by having at least 3 hard drives. So now let's watch the protection for each of the RAID types. Synology hybrid RAID and RAID 5 as we add a 4th and final drive. This doesn't change. The amount of protection is the same. It's equal to 1 full drive, but we increase the available capacity to 21.8 terabytes, basically 7.3 times 3 for 3 drives. And now all 4 drives are striped with the protection data. So if any one drive fails, a new drive can be rebuilt to bring yourself back up to full protection. It's really pretty simple. So if we remove a drive, this amount of protection doesn't change. That stays the same. Now, the RAID 5 dropped out because there's not enough drives. So some people think RAID 5 and Synology hybrid RAID are the same. Well, it is, but this isn't flexible. You can start with 1 drive and then just keep adding drives. Where RAID 5, you need 3 drives. So something else I want to mention, this calculator can give an inaccurate false sense of security. So Synology hybrid RAID is also flexible where you can mix drive sizes on an initial array or when upgrading. So let's say that Christian started with a 2 terabyte drive. Again, SHR gives him the flexibility to start using it immediately. Now he added a 4 terabyte drive. Because of the mix match drive sizes, that 4 terabyte drive is going to be treated initially as a 2 terabyte drive, and that means you're going to have the 2 terabytes of wasted space. The minute you add another drive, so this time let's add a 6, you start to gain more space, and your protection now equals the amount of space of a 4 terabyte drive, because the 6 is being treated as a 4 terabyte, and now the 2 is by itself, and that's the unused space. So if we drop the 6 out, you see how we have 2 terabytes basically of usable space, 2 terabytes of protection, and 2 terabytes of wasted space. That wasted space is because this 4 terabyte is being treated as a 2 terabyte until there's another drive in the system. So as we add the larger drive, we're still wasting 2 terabytes of space. So now let's add in an 8 terabyte drive. We're still getting that wasted space. So this is being treated as a 6 terabyte, and this is being treated as a 2 terabyte if I'm doing this right. So our protection is 6 terabytes and our full data is 10. So you can mix these drive sizes, but it's not efficient. And let's see, we had to get to 3. Where am I here? We had to get to 3 drives in the system before RAID 5 would work. And look at the amount of wasted space here. So RAID 5 is very inflexible in different unique situations. So it's better if you want mix match drive sizes to do that in pairs. Or if you happen to have mix match. So let's add 2 terabyte or two 2 terabyte drives. And what do I have here? So SHR gives us 2 terabytes of capacity and 2 terabytes of protection. Can't build a RAID 5 array with just the 2 drives. Now let's add the 4 terabyte drive, and we still have this wasted space because this is being treated as a 2 terabyte drive. But when we add a second one, we lose that unused space, the wasted space, and now our protection space is equal to 1 of the larger drives, and we start to gain extra storage. Well, then down the road, maybe you'll replace that 2 terabyte drive, one of them, with another 4. So we gained a little space, and now we'll get rid of the original 2 terabyte drive and add another 4. So now our protection is equal to 1 4 terabyte drive, and the available space is equal to 3 of them. Now what doesn't work, let's go back to the original mix configuration. So this works in the calculator if you start out this way. And it also works if you start out with 1 terabyte, then add a 4, then add a 6, and then add an 8. And naturally it works out if you start from the beginning with this combination. What won't work is doing this in real life. Just like Christian has, and this is where I was leading to, he has an 8 terabyte. But you can't buy a smaller drive to add to the existing one, even if it's only 1 drive. So the calculator will say it'll work, but it will not work in real life. So this tool does not give you a warning to that. You just have to remember that upwards and onwards is allowed, but downgrading isn't. So before I wrap this up, I want to show you what I have. So with my 8 16 terabyte drives, a RAID 6 configuration would be this, and the SHR2 would give me the same amount of space. But why it's important for the SHR2 configuration is if I added another expansion unit to my DS1520 Plus, which can take 2 expansion units, this RAID 6 would lock me into only using 16 terabyte drives. SHR2 allows me to add a drive of any size, so I could start adding 20 terabyte drives to the next expansion unit, and I do have a little bit of wasted space because SHR2 takes more than a couple drives to initialize, and once I get to 4 of the same size, that wasted space goes away. And of course, this is fictional. I could not mix the drive sizes in a RAID 6 array unless I initialized the array with all of those mixed drives in from the beginning. So anyway, Christian had a hard time with this. It's not easy to understand sometimes, and I realize that. But this is a great calculator as long as you don't use it to try to downgrade your system, because Synology won't accept removing a larger drive and adding a smaller as a replacement, nor will it allow you to add a smaller drive to your array. So in Christian's case, if he filled it with 4 8 terabyte drives with his SHR array, we'll make both those the same. Down the road, he could remove the first one. Where are we here? And he could add in, let's say, a 16 terabyte drive. Now, initially, that's going to be treated as an 8 terabyte, and his available space won't change, and he'll have 8 terabytes of wasted space. But the minute he removes a second 8 terabyte to add a second 16 terabyte to have 2 of each, now that wasted space is eliminated, and because there's a matched pair of each, he doesn't have any wasted space, but his protection is equal to the size of the larger drive in the system. And then if he removes another 8 terabyte to add a 16 down the road, his available space increases and the protection is still equal to one of the larger drives. So now let's remove the final 8 terabyte and add the 16 terabyte. Protection amount stays the same, and his available space just increases. So, short and sweet, it's not too difficult to understand once you get used to it, and just realize that the calculator can give you a false sense of security if you're trying to downsize the drives. This really should only be thought of as an initial RAID configuration calculator or an upgrade calculator, as long as you don't add smaller drives to a larger array. So thanks for watching and happy plexing. And let's talk about Synology's decision to only accept their own branded drives. It bummed me out. I was all set to buy the new DS1825 Plus when it was released, and I've decided not to, and that's what prompted me to reconfigure all my storage. I destroyed my hyper backup of all my Plex media on my older Synology NAS, and then I just copied all my data over to it, and it took a while to then point my Plex container, which is running on a faster Intel NUC under Unraid. I simply went in and Oh, I haven't reconfigured my app data backup plugin. Oh, I have. It's now correct. While my system was down, it wasn't. So if I'm reading this right, I'm not sure. I'll check that out later. So my Plex container simply needed the mount path change from the old to the, or from the new to the old Synology NAS once I moved my data over. And that allowed me to reset this NAS up to create the SSD main volume for my packages and Docker containers, and then to create the new SHR2 array to then move everything back. It was a big 2-week project, um, and I'm very happy with it because I'm now going to stick with my older DS1520 NAS until there's a better solution than Synology. I know I can migrate my drives into a DS1825, but if I want to increase my size from that point on, I could not add another Iron Wolf drive. I'd have to buy a Seagate branded drive, and possibly in the extended future, the prices might be close enough. But with all the trade war issues going on now with my country, the United States, I'm not placing any bets on being able to acquire a replacement drive quickly. And if I need one right now, whatever I can lay my hands on to secure a degraded array is what I might choose. I may not be able to get a a Seagate Iron Wolf 16 terabyte Pro, but if I can lay my hands on a 16 terabyte Western Digital Red, or I can lay my hands on even a recertified drive from Server Parts Deal to fix a degraded array, I want to be able to have that option. And if I can get my hands on a DS1825 Plus before there's a tariff upcharge on it, and then a drive goes bad in 6 months and the tariff war isn't solved, I may not be able to find a Synology branded drive quickly or easily, or at a price I'm willing to pay. So I'm not anti-Synology because of their change, because it doesn't change either of my existing models. What I'm most disappointed in is that I wasn't able to sell my older DS 1019 Plus while it still has some value to someone to help subsidize the purchase of the DS 1825. And I've been thinking hard about just buying a DS 1821, but that's now 4 years old, and it's only a year newer than my DS 1520. And I plan on having the DS 1825 for a very long time. And I just don't like the idea of buying something that's already 4 years closer to end of life status. So I still like Synology. I think they're making a poor choice. But if their branded drives come down in price, I won't have any arguments about moving forward if the whole world gets past the current trade war that's going on. So, not to be political, it's just it's a real concern with planning for future purchases when you don't have an unlimited budget. Okay, Christian, I hope you understood how the calculator works and how you can add drives in an upwards fashion, and the differences between the hybrid solution versus the traditional RAID 5 or RAID 6. Everybody else, thanks for watching, and I appreciate your viewership, and happy plexing.